welcome to our webinar today. Connection is the new currency to fuel revenue growth in 2023. Now, before we get all the way into our topic today, I want everyone to think about these three numbers because these have major implications for demand gen marketers within B2B across all segments. 300 trillion, 4%, and 0.5%. Now, we'll get back to those in just a second. Today, we're going to talk about a few different items. Number one, are we as demand generation professionals too focused on metrics? Why connection with our buyers is king? How to deliver a more human marketing experience, and how Sendoso customers are doing this today. Now, a little bit about your speaker today. My name is Phil Bruch. I'm a director of product marketing here at Sendoso. I am coming to you live from Mill Valley, California, which is just north of the Golden Gate Bridge here in Marin County in California. I and my wife and I do quite a bit of hiking because that's what you do in Marin. And I'm also a violently mediocre golfer, which means, try as I might, I continue to play but don't necessarily play well. Now, that is enough about me. Let's talk about what those numbers mean that we just showed a few moments ago. 300 trillion represents the number of emails that will be sent in 2022. 4% is the industry standard email conversion rate. And 0.5% is the standard click-through rate for display ads. Now, these three numbers have some pretty significant implications for demand gen professionals, again, across all segments. Number one, your buyers are being inundated with digital noise and digital communications, right? Because so many emails are being sent, because we continue to increase investment in display advertising and email marketing, your buyers have tuned out these digital approaches because there are just so many of them. The other thing that the implications of this are really significant is that performance improvement becomes a slog, right? If you have so many digital communications out there and hitting the same people over and over again, and they've tuned out, it's really difficult to actually improve your performance in that environment, right? And so invariably, the emphasis becomes about more campaigns, more webinars, more virtual events, etc., rather than better, right? Because performance is difficult. And ultimately, it really comes down to how can we get more things out there to push up leads that much more, right? And so the implications of those numbers are really significant when you think about it in totality in the environment that we're currently in. Now, in my opinion, and based off of the industry benchmarks that we're seeing, I think gamifying metrics has simply gone too far, right? I think go-to-market teams and marketing teams in particular have become obsessed with gaming metrics, things like click-through rate, lead to opportunity rate, opens rate, engagement rates, just to name a few, win rates, competitive win rates. But I think as marketers, we've forgotten that our core purpose is to actually connect with our buyers and compel them to act, right? In this context, action means download this ebook, take a demo, read our ebook, trial our product, or even buy, right? Simply just thinking about it in terms of getting them to click, I think misses the point and helps describe why we have 300 trillion emails being sent just in this year alone, right? And so I think ultimately we need to reframe the question, not about how to get more, but how do we actually connect with our buyers at scale, right? I think that go-to-market professionals on the whole has really outsourced this communication piece through digital strategies, through marketing automation tools, through social advertising. And I think there's a really good reason for this, right? It is really a lot simpler to simply acquire an email address than to try to build a connection with a buyer, right? And I think that the reliance or over-reliance on digital strategies became even more pronounced during the pandemic because human connection disappeared overnight, right? And so I think when we are overly reliant on digital communications, 4%, 0.5%, and 300 trillion suddenly make a lot more sense in context. And so to me, I think we have all picked up some bad habits, right? How many of you have been in a marketing strategy meeting where the sole focus was about metrics and dashboards, but not about message, story, and value, right? And I think this is where we start to see some of those really poor engagement rates, why buyers are tuning out, because ultimately human connection is a basic human need and our buyers are human. And we need to remember that, right? I think it is, again, it's easier to rely solely on digital engagement to execute, right? But I think what we really need to do is take a step back and really think about how we're differentiating, building that connection, and ultimately that is what's going to drive meaningful business results and differentiation, right? And by extension, this means this connecting piece will compel our buyers to act in the way that we want them to. But don't just take it from me. Even our friends at Gartner now recognize that buyers buy from brands that they care about them, right? This quote is really telling. 79% of businesses only buy from brands that actively demonstrate they understand and care about me. So we have to ask ourselves, are our customer journeys demonstrating that we care about our buyers throughout every touch point that we have with them, from lead to renewal? And by extension, can digital-only strategies do enough to demonstrate that we care about them and get them to act the way that we want to, right? In my perspective, from my point of view, based off our industry benchmarks that we talked about earlier, the fact that 35% of email outreach is simply ignored, I can confidently say that we aren't doing quite enough here, right? We need to recognize our buyers, again, are human and not just another entry in our email database or marketing database, right? And so I think now is the time to think about how do we get that humanity back into our customer journeys in order to build human connections at scale, right? And that's how we're going to differentiate, and that's how we're going to drive meaningful business results for our organizations. And so to me, the way we think about this at Sendoso is the human marketing experience, right? And I think demand generation marketers in general need new approaches and different tools in their toolbox to stand out amidst the sea of 300 trillion emails that inundate our buyers today, right? And so at Sendoso, the way that we think about it is this idea of a human marketing experience, right? And our customers today are leveraging Sendoso across these 5 strategic initiatives to really help revenue teams put the humanity back into their customer journeys across these 5 different elements, right? Accelerating revenue, building brand affinity, capturing customer retention, driving pipeline, and expanding relationships. Today, I'm going to walk you through 2 of our customer examples, specifically around accelerating revenue and driving pipeline, to help illustrate how Sendoso customers are trying to and successfully putting the humanity back into their marketing experiences and customer journeys. So first, we're going to talk about our friends at Gong. For those of you that are not familiar, they ultimately enable revenue leaders to adapt strategies using real-time insights from sales conversations. Laura, their senior manager for account-based marketing, needed to help Gong move up market to the enterprise. but they struggled between poor alignment between sales and marketing, in particular, the SDR team getting on board with executing marketing campaigns. I wonder if anyone in the room virtually here has ever had that problem before. The other really important point was she needed to create a memorable experience for these key decision makers at their target accounts. And so she went out to find a solution like Sendoso, right? And what really moved the needle for Gong was our deep integration with some of their core go-to-market apps like Salesforce and Outreach. And really, again, getting back to that memorable unboxing experience to really break through with these core decision makers, right? And so they ultimately leveraged Sendoso Direct to actually ship pinatas to these core buyers at enterprise organizations, right? And so she partnered directly with her SDR team, and an SDR actually came up with the idea that a customer conversation is similar to the pinata. The real value is what's inside, right? And so she was able to get really good buy-in and alignment from her SDR partners because it was really personalized, it was memorable, and really spoke to the value of the solution, right? So they matched the message to the gifting strategy. And this ultimately had a massive, massive impact for Gong, right? So they were able to leverage intent data through demand base. They leveraged outreach integration to make sure their SDRs are able to leverage the gifts and the sequences directly from where they live, right, in outreach. And ultimately, the results were really, really impressive. They drove 50% increases in meeting attendance, which meant they were able to get more leads down the funnel more quickly and ready to buy, or at least talk to sales in more advanced conversations. And the conversion rate improved to over 14%, which sourced $5.5 million in pipeline and influenced another $33 million in pipeline just from this one campaign, right? And so what Gong was able to do since is actually rerun this similar gifting strategy and campaign across multiple times of the year, incorporate those learnings and continue to drive higher and higher impact as a result of quickly iterating on what they've learned, right? And so I think what this helps highlight is a couple things. Number one, how a human marketing experience really builds that equity and starts to help build that relationship with your buyers. And one of the other really important outputs of this is that really deeper connection and alignment across your go-to-market teams to truly win as a team when you're able to leverage integrations, directly partner with these types of initiatives, and ultimately drive a lot of success for everyone across the revenue team. So our next example are from our friends at Verkada. Verkada provides commercial buildings with intuitive video security, access controls, environmental sensors, visitor management, these types of things. And what their key problem is that they had a lot of success leveraging Sendoso in the US and gifting in particular, but they also recognized they had a really good opportunity to drive engagement with their prospects across the globe, right? And amplify the investments they've made into their webinar campaigns. With Verkada, webinars are a really critical piece of their customer journey. And so they needed to make sure that their partner could deeply integrate to their marketing automation platform, Marketo, and have that global logistics layer to ensure that they could really connect with buyers around the world across the UK, Australia, and obviously North America. And so what they did was they leveraged Sendoso and gifting to incentivize their webinar attendance and built a campaign to connect their marketing message, which is solutions that are built to last, alongside their gifting strategy by sending prospects Maglite flashlights, right? And so this allowed and enabled that team to apply B2C marketing mindsets into a B2B campaign, right? And so by leveraging these different strategies across the customer journey, incentivizing webinar attendance, following up with the Maglite flashlights, and then ultimately continuing that down the path of their customer journey, they're able to drive 72% increases in webinar attendance, 3x response rates, 3x their response rates to their outreach, which drove 4x ROI with this campaign, right? And so again, the other benefit is, since it's deeply integrated within their demand gen processes as they exist now, they can actually focus on executing more webinars rather than doing things like chasing down one-off gifts or those types of non-revenue contributions, and really focus on what matters. And ultimately, Sendoso is able to do this because we connect the three legs of the stool, as we like to think about it: technology, logistics, and expertise. Really, that technology layer is that end-to-end seamless management of all things sending. And that is everything from sourcing to identifying who needs to get actually sent the item or items, and then ultimately being able to report back on ROI and ensuring budget management, so the right people and the right teams have access to the appropriate gifts and audit trail for finance and those types of things. Global logistics layers, which means that we own all of our sending fulfillment centers across the globe, which means that you have total control over things like personalization and unboxing experiences as well. And we even ensure that carbon offsets are also included within that type of logistics control that we offer. And our expertise. Ultimately, Sendoso really built this market and this segment and category. And so you were able to leverage our experts as extensions of your team to make sure that you can deliver the appropriate gift at the right stage of the funnel. And also, if you do need to partner with us on things like other professional services offerings or additional training, we're able to facilitate that and really make sure that our experts are dug in alongside those of you that are really in the execution of a lot of these different types of initiatives as well, right? And that can mean whether you are in demand generation or all the way through customer success as well. And really, what I hope that this presentation and what these examples help to show is that sending amplifies your marketing investments across the customer journey, right? Whether you are trying to drive more interest to your events or webinars or demos, ensuring you're staying top of mind through other initiatives we can offer or other services we can offer, like virtual experiences, really getting through into the contracting by staying top of mind, and then all the way through onboarding and retention, right? And celebrating those customer milestones and ensuring that we really put that humanity back into our marketing investments throughout these customer journeys, right? So in terms of our call to action today, I want each of you, the next day after the conference here, is I want you to think about one campaign and ask yourself these three questions. Number one, how does this touch point help us build a connection with our buyers? And if you are believing that it is, think about how it's doing that and really define that more concretely. Think about, is this campaign adding value to our customer journey? If so, how? And would we benefit from adding more personalization to this campaign? And what types of tactics and strategies can we take to add more personalization to it? So with that, I would like to thank you for joining this session today and listening to the webinar today. Also, I hope you have a great rest of your conference, and thank you so much for joining us once again.